This year is entitled Meir Kahane, Zechrono Livracha, Part 2, his relationship to Gedolim and Daas Torah. A little known article of Mice and Men. It was written by Meir Kahane, published in the Jewish press in 1961. So it says, the article that I have says, I'm assuming it's authentic, I couldn't find it. I Googled Jewish Press 1961 of Meir Kahane, Mice and Men. I could not find the article, but assuming it's an authentic article, it would represent the most incredible change in his hashkafa. And when I'm giving these series of shirim on Meir Kahane, it's because A, he was a fascinating individual, and B, his spiritual legacy is carried on now in Otzma Yehudit, which may have a chance of getting into the Knesset. The Shirim are not a support of his policies, not a support of his policies, not against his policies, just a fascinating person to learn about. And each person will follow his own rav about how to proceed with elections. So, in this article of Mice and Men in 1961, there was a demonstration where the Jews were out screaming in support of Soviet Jewry. And we all know that Meir Kahane took a major lead in the student struggle for Soviet Jewry, Triple SJ it was known as, back in the late 60s and the 70s. We had hundreds of thousands of people in Manhattan at least once a year demonstrating for Soviet Jews. 1, 2, 3, 4, open up the iron door, 5, 6, 7, 8, we don't want to wait. Many of us were there. I remember being there every year. And this article is fascinating because he writes in Of Mice and Men. And as I said, I'm assuming the article I have here, it's an authentic article. It claims that it was published in the Jewish press where he wrote articles on a weekly basis. It writes that Rav Meir Kahane was against the demonstrations, against them in 1961. Why? Because Rav Moshe Feinstein and Rav Aaron Kotler, both of them, Zechrono Livracha, both said not to demonstrate. It won't be effective. On the contrary, it will have negative consequences on the Jews in Russia. So in the introduction to the article, it says that Rav Kahane subsequently changed his mind, meaning in his early years, he was just about 20, in his 20s when he wrote this, in his early years, he held, that's it, if the Gedolim say don't demonstrate, then don't demonstrate, meaning we don't only follow the Gadol when he tells us about the onion, cut by a dairy knife and placed in a meat pan, what the status of the onion is, and what's considered chametz and kidneyot, not only on kashrus and all other technical areas of halacha must we follow Gedolim, but also when Daas Torah, on non-technical halacha, it's more of an analysis of his situation, is demonstrating good, is it effective, is it bad, we have to follow them as well. So if this is the case, that this article was written by him in 1961 in his early years, then it represents a fascinating and controversial shift. Because as we know, later on, he was the vocal voice, demonstrating against Soviet Jews and doing a lot more than just that. Demonstrating for Soviet Jews against the Russian government, the USSR. So this is a fascinating and maybe not so well known point about Rav Kahane, Zechrono Livracha. We originally coined this article. He said, "Yeah, follow Daas Torah, and they know better. The Gedolim know better." As time developed, he developed his own opinions, his own political analysis, and then he felt that we need to take action. And he did it in a very forceful way. And then in the book, The Story of the JDL, he writes about just what he did with the Russian compound in Manhattan, where it was violent. Because he said we need to do anything we can to bring this to the center of the world. And if it means bombing their place, not killing anyone, but doing damage, getting on the front page of the New York Times, then that's what we need to do. So it was an amazing shift, and it was a controversial point. Until this very day, the discussion of Daas Torah is still a very important one and a dynamic one. So it's a fascinating part of Meir Kahane, Shalom.